has a wayward and rebellious son, who has not listened to the voice of his father or the voice of his mother, and who, when they have disciplined him, does not listen to them, then his father and mother shall take hold of him and bring him out to the elders of the city, to the gate of his city, and shall say to the elders of his city, this son of ours is wayward and rebellious. He has not listened to our voice. He is a glutton and a drunkard. And all the men of the city shall stone him to death with stones. Thus you shall purge the evil from your midst, and let all Israel hear and revere. And when a man has committed a sin worthy of death, then he shall be put to death, and you shall hang him on a tree. Let his body not remain overnight on the tree, for you shall certainly bury him the same day. For he who is hanged is accursed of Almighty Sovereign, so that you do not defile the land which Yahweh your Almighty Sovereign is giving you as an inheritance.
Anybody? I think it is so awesome here in this chapter how the Father displays his love and his care for all. Even though you captured a woman of your enemies and you thought that she was pleasant and pleasing and desired to take her for a wife, the Father sets down how you are to treat her and how you dare not treat her. It is obvious that this one was not a children of the Israelite, not a Hebrew, but a captive that still, once you brought her into your home, you brought her in under the covenant of the Hebrew covenant that the Father gave, the covenant of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Once you brought her in to be a wife, you brought her in under that covenant. And you had to treat her as a Hebrew, even though she was not. You had to treat her as a participant of the covenant. And it is so awesome to me here how the protection of the covenant is around us. Even though sometimes we're not doing what we're supposed to do, we still are surrounded by the covenant, blessings and consequences. And I think here it sets even more the importance of raising our children in a manner that they should go. Because this scripture plainly says that a person, the parents are to take the rebellious, arrogant child out before the elders to be stoned to death. That's a tough one, people. I don't know how a person could. It would have to be just the power of Almighty Yahweh to be able to emotionally and spiritually do that. That would be a tough one. Even though your child was dishonoring, ignoring you, do not let your children dishonor you. That brings a curse on them. It is just so obvious that the curse on a child who comes against and curses their mother and their father. And I know that is real. It talks about the curse that's on them. So we need to protect our children. Protect your children. Do not let them disrespect you. Do not let them disrespect you. Because it is serious to the Father. The child disrespecting you is just like to the fathers a picture of the church disrespecting him. It's just, It's a serious thing. Anybody? All right. Let's go on to the next chapter.
When you see your brother's ox or sheep going astray, you shall not hide yourself from them. Return them to your brother without fail. And if your brother is not near you, or if you do not know him, then you shall bring it into your own house, and it shall be with you until your brother seeks it. Then you shall return it to him. And so you do with his donkey, and so you do with his garment, and so you do with whatever your brother loses, which he has lost and you have found. You are not allowed to hide yourself. When you see your brother's donkey or your ox fall down on the way, you shall not hide yourself from them. Help them raise them without fail. A woman does not wear that which pertains to a man, nor does a man put on a woman's garment. For whoever does this is an abomination to Yahweh, your Almighty Sovereign. When you come upon a bird's nest along the way, in any tree or on the ground, you with young ones or eggs, the mother sitting on the young or the eggs, do not take the mother with the young. Let the mother go without fail, and take the young for yourself, so that it might be well with you, and that you have prolonged days. When you build a new house, then you shall make a parapet on your roof, so that you do not bring blood guilt on your house when one falls from it. Do not sow your vineyard with different kinds of seeds, lest the yield of your seed which you have sown and the fruit of your vineyard be defiled. Do not plow with an ox and a donkey together. Do not put on a garment of different kinds of wool and linen together. Make tassels on the four corners of the garments, and with which you cover yourself. When any man takes a wife and shall go into her and shall hate her, and shall make abusive charges against her and bring an evil name on her, and say, I took this woman, and when I came into her, I did not find her a maiden. When the father and the mother of the young woman shall take and bring out the proof of the girl's maidenhood to the elders of the city of the gate, and the girl's father shall say to the elders, I gave my daughter to this man as wife, and he hates her. And see, he has made abusive charges against her, saying, I did not find your daughter a maiden. And yet these are the proofs of my daughter's maidenhood, and they shall spread the garment before the elders of the city. And the elders of the city shall take that man and punish him, and fine him 100 pieces of silver, and give him to the father of the young woman, because he has brought an evil name on a maiden of Israel, and she shall be his wife. He is not allowed to put her away at all his days. But if the matter is true that the girl was not found a maiden, then they shall bring the girl to the door of her father's house, and the men of the city shall stone her to death with stones, because she has done wickedness in Israel to whore in her father's house. Thus you shall purge the evil from your midst. And when a man is found lying with a woman married to a husband, then both of them shall die. Both the men that lay with the woman, the man that lay with the woman, and the woman, that you shall purge the evil from Israel. When a girl who is a maiden is engaged to a husband, and a man finds her in the city and lies with her, then you shall bring them both out to the gate of the city, and shall stone them to death with stones. The girl, because she did not cry out in the city, and the man, because he has humbled his neighbor's wife. Thus you shall purge the evil from your midst. But if a man finds a girl who is engaged in the field, and the man seizes her and lies with her, then only the man who lay with her shall die, but you shall do no matter to the girl. The girl hath no sin worthy of death, for for the matter is like a man who races against his neighbor and kills them. For he found her in the field, and she cried out, and they encouraged girl, but without anyone to save her. When a man finds that girl who is a maiden, who is not engaged, and they seize her and lies, and he seizes her and lies with her, and are found out, then man who lay with her shall give to your father 50 pieces of silver, and she is to be his wife because he has humbled her. He is not allowed to put her away all the days. A man does not take his father's wife or uncover his father's skirt.
Let's go back up to 8. I think this is so important that when we do something recklessly and a person loses his life because of our recklessness, and we intentionally create that reckless situation by not doing something that we should have done to protect it, that in verse 8 here, it indicates that we would be guilty of the innocent blood. He said, now when thou buildest a new house, thou shalt make a battlement for thy roof, that thou mayest not bring blood upon thy house, if any man shall fall from thence. In other words, if you don't take the precautions, is what it's saying. If you recklessly ignore the precautions, that even though it's accidental, that doesn't free you from it. You know, this is just much like in our civilization today, when we work out in the public. Many of the jobs that we work, particularly in construction and other things, there are things that they do intentionally, ignore doing, neglect doing, that are dangerous. Whenever I worked with contractors in construction, they would get anywhere from a 3-4 week notice that OSHA was coming to investigate. And then whenever OSHA came, all the ladders or whatever that had anything wrong with it and was not acceptable was marked and set aside not to be used. When OSHA made the inspection and it was over, all those ladders was put right back out to be used. That's an intentional thing. And if somebody was injured in that, this is saying that that blood's on that person. If you intentionally ignore to do something that you know is a hazard. And here in this case, the father was making it clear that if you ignore doing something that is a safety precaution intentionally, that if someone loses their life over it, that blood is on your people. That's a serious thing. That is a serious thing. And you know, if we've gone down, can you imagine a woman that was accused of something and that she would have to be the man that lay with her, give to the damsel's father 50 shekels of silver, and she shall be his wife. Because he hath owned her, he may not put her away all his days. Can you imagine the friction that would be there? I mean, I wouldn't want to live in that household. You know, to me, it's the Father sets up such awesome rules of how we are to deal with Him and how we are to deal with one another. He leaves nothing for our imagination and tells us that if we walk after the imagination of our own heart, we're a fool. So we have nothing but the written word of Yah and the revelation of Yah to go by, to live, to protect ourselves and live by. That governs our life. That governs our future, our past, everything that goes with us. It is governed by the word of Yahweh and our relationship to it. Anybody?
I'm free.
Go ahead.
I just have a question. It says that if he takes a girl's virginity, that he, and they both obviously agree.
I'm not understanding you.
When it says that he has to keep her as his wife all the days of his life, does that mean that like divorce is not allowed?
That's right.
And is that like just if you are with a virgin, or is there an exception to that?
Well, and that situation is what it's talking about. He found a virgin and took her, irresponsibly or whatever. He had to pay the price to the father, and he was not allowed to divorce her because of what his actions toward her.
And you're referring to the section like in 22, 13 and on. Okay, yeah. So specifically in that one where he's bringing that accusation and he has strewn her name in the mud.
Right.
I mean, that's it. He is gone and he has accused her of a very, again, biblically and in the Father's eyes, a very significant action, a very bad action. So he's taken her name and running it through the mud, and then if he's proven to be wrong, he gets those consequences.
But can you imagine living a life with this woman that you've done this to? Go ahead.
Rachel, that starts at verse 28. There's three different situations.
Well, that's why I was
Right.
wanting to clarify. 13 was the one I was.
But 28 is what she was talking about.
Well, that was what I wanted to clarify.
Yeah, 28 was just a irresponsible contact. And the other one you're talking about was, where he accused his wife of being unfaithful. Go ahead.
What about, you keep saying, would it be like living with her? What would it be like living with a man that didn't want you? He could be mean to her. He may not be able to divorce her, but he could be the most hateful person in the world to her, and she's stuck there.
The Father is I think the Father is so just, and He is a rescuer of those who are burdened. Yes, Egypt was Hebrews were in bondage to Egypt for 400 years, but He set them free. He set them free. And I know that, I don't know that the woman cannot leave him in that situation, but he cannot put her away. He cannot divorce her. There is totally different culture that we're talking about here, where the woman was in subjection to the husband. It was almost like the woman was property to the husband. But today, that situation doesn't exist. It'd be hard live by that today. Go ahead.
Well, too, it's not like today, you can just go out and find a job, too.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, if their husband puts them out, or like that one with the slave, the captured girl, that if he goes in, sleeps with her, doesn't like her, whatever, and then he can set her free. I mean, it says she can go anywhere she wants, so maybe she'd go back to some other land or something, but it's not like she can just go out and make a living for themselves,
Yeah.
these women, you know? It's just, it wasn't the same kind of,
It's not like they were all
Yeah.
living in the same house. They all had their separate.
Actually, touching on that, going back to prior to World War II. Prior to World War II in this country, there were many women that were enslaved basically to the marriage, because it was, if you divorced to begin with, it was like putting the scarlet letter on your head. And women did not work often. You know, it was a rare thing for women to go out and work in that period of time. But when World War II came along and the war took most of the men out of the country, it was a necessity for women to work. And women found out that they could work and they could make a living. And not only that, but the manufacturers and the builders found out that women could do as good a job, and in some cases a better job with their hands than men did, if it wasn't a strong physical job, all right? So what it did, it opened the door for women to go out and work. And in a way that liberated women in a lot of ways, because prior to that, a woman was pretty well, when she married, she was pretty well locked into that marriage, because there wasn't a lot of jobs for women to do at the time. They did housekeeping or something like that, but they didn't go out to factory jobs and so on and so forth prior to World War II. So World War II, it really did a lot of things. It gave women some liberties that they hadn't had before, that they could go out and get a job. And it became common for women to work out of the family at that time. It became common. And up until that time, the woman was a housekeeper, a homemaker, and a mother that raised her children. But after World War II, women said, no, we're not going back to what we were before. We're going to have our liberty. And so this is kind of what we're talking about. I don't think there was a whole lot of chores for women to do to make money at that time, okay? So I think probably if she left, she would go back to her father or father's house or whatever. You know, I don't know exactly what that is. I haven't done a lot of historical study on that, but I would assume that she would go back to her father's house. Anybody? Go ahead.
Oh, you're making me think of Proverbs 31. The virtuous woman or the capable wife.
Right?
Verses 10. Oh. So I don't have to yell? Can you hear me? What? Does it work? Okay. Proverbs 31, verses 10 to 31, talks about the virtuous woman or the capable wife. And I'm not saying this applies to all these other situations. But what I'm saying is what he was talking about just reminded me of it. So there's a way to be married and yet be a businesswoman and a mother and a teacher of the Torah and the Word and all that. So we can do, but it's very rare. It's as rare as rubies, for example.
Yes.
So who could find one of those?
Yeah, I think it's hard for us to understand bonds that was put on a woman earlier. There were, I know in my lifetime as a young boy, there were women in the community that we knew were abused and mistreated by their husbands. But leaving and divorce wasn't an option to them as far as they were concerned. Because if you divorced your husband or left your husband, it's like putting a scarlet H in front of your head, you know? I mean, it was just hard to do and still stay respected and honored.
Yeah.
Anybody? Go ahead.
So we often look at this chapter in the physical. Very rarely do we look at it in the spiritual. We are engaged to Messiah. So when we're getting attacked by the demonic, by Hasatan, by the world, are we yelling out?
Yes.
Are we crying out, or are we just going along with it? You know? Are we just going along with the world's systems, or are we speaking out against it?
Very good. Very good. Very good. Are you making a noise or are you just submitting and being quiet? Anybody? All right, let's go to the next chapter.
One of wounded, mutilated, or genitalia cut off does not enter the assembly of Yahweh. One of incestuous birth does not enter the assembly of Yahweh. Even a 10th generation of his does not enter the assembly of Yahweh. An Ammonite or Moabite does not enter the assembly of Yahweh. Even a 10th generation of them does not ever enter the assembly of Yahweh, because they did not meet you with the bread and water on the way which you came out of Livestream, and because they hired against you Balaam, son of Beor, from Pathor of Aram Naharaim, to curse you. But Yahweh, your Almighty Sovereign, refused to listen to Balaam, and Yahweh, your Almighty Sovereign, turned a curse into a blessing for you, because Yahweh, your Almighty Sovereign, loves you. Do not seek their peace, nor their good all your days forever. Do not loathe an Edomite, for he is your brother. Do not loathe the Mizraite, because you were strangers in his land. The children of the third generation born to them do enter the assembly of Yahweh. When an army goes out against your enemies, then you shall guard yourself from every evil matter. When there is any man among you who is not clean because of a mission in the night, then he shall go outside the camp. Let him not come into the midst of the camp. And it shall be toward the evening that he bathes with water. And when the sun goes, let him come into the midst of the camp. And you shall have a place outside the camp where you shall go out, and you shall have a sharp implement among your equipment. And when you sit down outside, you shall dig with it and turn and cover your excrement. And Yahweh, your Almighty Sovereign, walks in the midst of your camp to deliver you and give your enemies over to you. Therefore, your camp shall be Kodesh, so that he does not see unclean matter among you, and shall turn away from you. Then you shall hand over to his master the slave who escaped from his master to you. Let him dwell with you in your midst, in the place where he has chosen within one of your gates, where it is pleasing to him. Do not oppress him. None of your daughters of Israel is to be a cult prostitute, nor any of the sons of Israel be a cult prostitute. Do not bring the hire of a whore or the pay of a dog to the house of Yahweh, your Almighty Sovereign, for any vowed offering, for both these are abominations to Yahweh, your Almighty Sovereign. You do not lend at interest to your brother, interest of silver, interest of food, interest of whatever is lent at interest. To a foreigner you lend at interest, but your brother you do not lend at interest, so that Yahweh your Almighty Sovereign might bless you in all that you put your hand in the land which you are entering to possess. When you make a vow to Yahweh your Almighty Sovereign, do not delay to pay it, for Yahweh your Almighty Sovereign is certainly requiring it of you, and it shall be sin to you. But when you abstain from vowing, it is not a sin in you. That which is gone from your lips, you shall guard to do, for you voluntarily vowed to Yahweh your Almighty Sovereign what you have promised with your mouth. When you have come into your neighbor's vineyard, and shall eat to the satisfaction of your desire, but you do not put any in a receptacle of yours. When you come into your neighbor's standing grain, you shall pluck the heads with your hand, but do not use a sickle on your neighbor's standing grain.
Anybody? And there's no problem taking what you can eat from your neighbor's field, but you don't gather one kernel more than you can eat and consume in the field. You're not allowed to gather it up and take it out. It's just, if we look at these standards and commands that the Father's given us to live by, He has protected everything. He even goes so far as to protect the sojourner or the widow or whoever in the community that is poor or hungry, that you are in your field to leave gleanings for them, that they can come to your field and glean if they are in hungry or in destitution and in need. They can come to your field and they can eat or they can prosper, for themselves. But they must eat what they eat in the field. We need to know that the Father has made a way for each and every one of us. All we have to do is to walk in the ways that He set forth before us, so that we're in the contract. I know that there's ones in here that work in the field of aviation. It's so important that you follow the regulations in aviation whenever you do repairs on a plane, that you use the equipment or materials that are approved for that are dedicated for that. If you use something different than that, it can nullify your insurance. There was a plane that crashed years ago, crashed and burned in Texas, and when they examined the remains of the plane for what caused the accident, they found one little old spring that was put in the carburetor of the plane that was not approved for it. It canceled the insurance of the whole plane. Wiped it out. We are in a covenant with Almighty Yahweh. If we do not abide by that covenant, then we have excluded ourselves from the benefits of that covenant. It is so awesome that people think about walking in covenant, keeping the commandments and the law. Oh, what a burden It's not a burden, people. It is a protection. It protects you in your obedience to the Father and for your well-being. Anybody? Go ahead.
So I have a question on the beginning of the chapter, and the understanding of community of Yahuwah. It says it a few times through these verses, 1 through 8. So, of what we might think that actually is, because it's, to me, you've got things like verse 1 where you're talking about someone who could have just had an accident with his genitals.
Yeah.
And so then it says he's not to enter the community of Yahuwah, which would not equate to like being cast out of the camp, not being part of the family. I mean, that, to me, that verse could be a very well accident happened. And so he's not allowed to do something, although, in my opinion, he's not like kicked out of the community. He's not kicked out of Israel. But I've heard some people's opinions on talking about like verse 3, that an Ammonite and a Moabite, when it also says, shall not enter the assembly of Yahuwah, even to the 10th generation shall not enter the assembly. Some people that equate that with like, they're never getting salvation, or they're completely not of Israel ever. But to me, again, you couldn't use the same reasoning if you're talking about someone that had an accident in verse 1.
Can I address that?
So yeah, with that.
First of all, he is talking to a people before Yeshua ever came. The curses of the law. Yeshua came to free us from the curses of the law. If we walk in covenant and we're washed in the blood of Yeshua, even though the testicles have been damaged or removed even, that curse is removed from us. Because of Yeshua and the blood of Yeshua, he has removed that curse from us. And so it no longer pertains to us. Now, if you are without Yeshua, obviously it still pertains, doesn't it? So we understand that Yeshua freed us from the curse of the law. He did not free us from the law, but the curse of the law. And so this is basically a curse where he's talking about the Moabites not being able to come in forever. This is a curse. Yeshua interrupted that curse. The Father sent Yeshua to interrupt that curse because the Father cannot contradict his word. So he sent Yeshua to remove that curse from us. And when we come to Yeshua, that curse is removed from us. But if we do not come to Yeshua, if we ignore Yeshua, then that curse clings to us throughout eternity. Does that make any sense to you?
Yes, and in the big scheme of things, I agree. I don't know if I would so agree in just like these particular instances. But yes, in the whole scheme of things, of course, of the curse of the law and the freedom that Yeshua brought for us in that. But I mean, that's helpful. Yeah. So, say.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I was kind of wondering along the same lines because, Ruth being a Moabite, and it wasn't 10 generations removed from this point, but she was counted as Israel.
Also said, let your people be my people, and cut herself off from the Moabites.
Give her a mic.
Yeah. Everyone needs to hear
It said, Ruth said to Naomi, let your people be my people. Therefore she cut herself off from the Moabites. That's,
No.
she became one of them. She
basically chose to be grafted in, like we choose to be grafted in.
That you renounced the Moabite culture. The Father is so magnificent. He's so awesome, so merciful, and so gracious. And I understand where you're coming from, Ken. It kind of leaves a question in our mind, what happened here, I guess I have to say that it's probably as much as what Michelle has said as anything, that she renounced the Moabite way and said that your people be my people, and that she associated herself with the Hebrew and not as a Moabite, so she became as a Hebrew. That's the only thing I can see with it. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I definitely agree with Michelle's interpretation there. I think that that's correct. I've had lots of conversations with people that doesn't seem to get across. But again, that there's so much in it. If you go through that section, I think it's Ruth 1. I think it's the first chapter in that. That to me, it's very clear she was by flesh a Moabite, and that she spiritually cast that off. And she said, those people are no longer my people. That God is no longer my God. And says to Naomi, your people are my people, your Elohim is my Elohim. And that with the grafting in, that's what we choose every day is, and when we, fully submit ourselves to the Father, that we are saying, whatever our past, whomever we worshiped before, whomever our people were, we're done with that, and we are choosing you and your ways, and you are our King.
Yes.
And so I think that is a perfect understanding of that. I guess, again, I know, RC, your perspective of just this doesn't apply to us anymore after Yeshua. But I'm kind of wondering if, at this point at least, if the community, the kahal of Yahuwah, was just like either when you could come to the tabernacle or when the congregation gathered together as a people. So that definitely doesn't apply to just being spiritually in relationship with the Father. We know Daniel, who was in exile, found favor with the Father. It said he's forgiven by his prayers. He had no access to the tabernacle.
Yeah.
Post Yeshua, we have no access. We have that, and there's no standing temple or tabernacle as well. But I think of just like Daniel before Yeshua. So he was out in exile, and yet he was spiritually still in relationship with the Father. Even though there wasn't a tabernacle, even he wasn't bringing offerings, he wasn't bringing that restitution, it wasn't in place at that time. And so he maybe wouldn't have been counted technically in the community of Yahuwah at that point, but he was still in relationship with Yahuwah. So if that's what it maybe means in these verses, where by blood an Ammonite and a Moabite won't come, can't bring their offerings, and not that means that they're not forgiven. I don't know that that's right. I don't have a clear understanding so far of that community, but yeah, that it applies somehow to the physical and not to spiritual salvation and redemption, which comes by Yahusha alone. It didn't come by the offerings and the sacrifices back then, and Hebrews tells us that it never. The blood of bulls and goats never took away the sin.
Right.
It's not like it took away their sin back then, and then once Yeshua came, his blood is what does it now. They never took away it back then. It's just that way of restoring that relationship that was broken. So, yeah, I think the only thing that I was kind of caught up with was where it talks about the Egyptian. 7. Don't loathe an Edomite, for he is your brother. Do not loathe an Egyptian, because you are a stranger in his land. The children of the third generation born to them do enter the assembly. So that, for a time, for some reason, the Egyptians and the Edomites weren't allowed to be in whatever congregation, assembly, kahal, but then a few generations later they were able. Again, I don't have a full understanding on that. Yeah, the children of the third generation born to them do enter the assembly. So that's where I just, again, I from discussions I've had with people that equate this to a spiritual cutoff that I don't think is right. I just, again, at this time at least, because then they equate it further all the way to now. You know, they're like, oh, the Moabite and the Ammonite now. If you've got that blood, you're cut off. Now you have no chance of salvation. Like I know people online and such that I have conversations with and believe that.
Oh, wow.
And so trying just to understand in this context, going, okay, so clearly we know the community of Yahuwah is something particular, and then my understanding is a physical thing, not a spiritual thing. So if there was just a little more understanding on that part at that time, you know, pre-Joshua and pre that too. So I'm done now.
And also, there's the possibility of, we don't get a definition of it really. When she came in to the congregation, when she came into the tabernacle, when she came into that, there was a court of Gentiles. We don't know that she was allowed into the Hebrew congregation. And when it talks about the congregation, I believe that's what it's talking about, is that there was a congregation that the Hebrews gathered in, and then there was a court of the Gentiles for the Gentiles that were there. Not that they didn't go in with the Hebrew children. They didn't mix with them in their worship or their coming together. So we don't know. It's not defined here, but I'm just saying that's a possibility. I believe probably that she was accepted and went in, but knowing the way that the Jewish culture is, it's a possibility that she had to remain in the court of Gentiles and not into the congregation fully accepted into the congregation. That we don't have any definition of that. I'm just saying that's a possibility. Anybody? Go ahead.
Well, I'm not sure where I got this, if I read it or somebody else said it or something, but as far as the, being the whole cutoff thing, I've heard that Daniel, and all those young men from Israel that were brought in and went into the employment or whatever of Nebuchadnezzar or the ruler were made eunuchs. And we know that Daniel was very pleasing before the Father. So even though that emasculation, there was no synagogue or anything that he couldn't have gone into, but it definitely did not cut him off from his relationship with the Almighty.
Right.
And I think that kind of shows again how, like Rachel said earlier, that and you too, that we're under the law, but once we come into relationship with Yeshua, that changes everything.
Exactly. Go ahead.
On that verse 3, an Ammonite and Moabite shall not enter the assembly of Yahweh, even a 10th generation of them. The verse after that, where it says why they didn't get to go into the assembly, I just thought it was interesting that it was not just because they didn't give bread and water when they came out of Mizraim, but because they hired Balaam to curse them. So it was a new level of hatred. They were like, it wasn't just that they.
My turn. I think you're heading in the right direction as far as the tabernacle idea, because he wanted to keep his house clean.
Yeah.
So a lot of the stuff in here, that we see that, there's lots of other places where, you can't go in until you are clean.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's ways to correct it. Sometimes it was just time. Okay, it was just, I mean, it is what it is, but he wanted to keep his house clean. And I'm not sure of the Hebrew words here that are translated in what I'm looking at as a community or assembly. I think I see congregation up there on what RC's looking at. But I think that's what it's talking about, as opposed to like Israel as a whole, as the entire camp or something like that. But he wants to keep his house clean. So I think that's where that's headed. Now, still has other implications also, but I think that's what it's talking about.
Anybody?
So yeah, I was just looking that up, and it is kahal on all of those, whether it's assembly or congregation, it's all the same Hebrew word.
So why did they translate it different words in different places?
Even in the same translation, they'll
Yeah.
do it different. I noticed that.
Well, I'm gonna step out on a limb here a little bit. I believe we have so many different translations of the Bible. And I believe the reason we have them because it seems like it's difficult, if not impossible, for men to separate their beliefs and their doctrines when they start translating and be completely neutral in it. We find that many times the word has a choice of translation and they translate it with a translation that fits their doctrine. You know, and we have to be careful in the word that we try to be neutral in it. And I understand when I was a young boy, if I'd have said something to my mother or dad about there being a mistranslation in the Bible or the roof would have come down on my head. But today we know that there are priorities in the translation by the translators. Anybody?
Yeah, the other thing to maybe consider too is, again, we have a community, assembly, a congregation of Yahweh. So it's that of Yahweh part that, okay, what's he talking about? So like in verse 1, do not enter into the house of Yahweh is maybe another, perhaps a better way to translate that.
And I think, you know, he that is wounded and in secret shall not enter into the congregation of Yahweh. And is that talking about the assembly?
What's that?
Yeah.
But no, I mean.
Well, we're talking about a complete assembly of worship when they come together to worship in the temple. There was two separate areas. There was the area of the Hebrews, where the Hebrews in covenant and circumcised could come in, and then there was the area where no uncircumcised could come into that area. All right, that the area of the Gentiles was for the uncircumcised. If you weren't circumcised, you weren't allowed into the congregation of Israel. You know, you had to remain in the court of the Gentiles. If they'd have caught you in the congregation of Israel uncircumcised, you had a bad day. So I think this is what it's talking about. It's talking about the congregation of Israel. You know, is it talking about the congregation when they come together to worship, or is it talking about the whole congregation of Israel under Almighty Yahweh? You know, there's a question there to be answered, and I'm not sure that I have the answer for it. Anybody?
So if I could just comment on that, I don't think that was Yah's original plan. We don't see anything in the tabernacle of an exterior for the court of the Gentiles. We do see it come in with the temple. I would have to refresh myself on Solomon's building of it. Because I don't know if it was then or if it was just in Herod's. Maybe it was just in Herod's temple. Historically, of when that court of the Gentiles came in, but we know it wasn't in the tabernacle setup. So my understanding is that that was a Jewish add-on. That was a us versus them. We are higher than them thing. Now we do know there is scripture that circumcision is a commandment. It's to be kept there. We know fleshly, that was a command for Passover for the people as well. So if you were choosing to stay, my opinion, if you were choosing to stay physically uncircumcised, that did keep you off of certain things of the Father. And in my perspective, I would think that you were choosing the flesh over choosing the Father. Now I can't, again, that's my opinion in that. But I think that if you were a sojourner and you did the commandments, including circumcision, that you could partake just as everyone else. And my understanding, unless this, again, is saying maybe the assembly, you couldn't come to the tabernacle, and again, I don't know that that's right, but that you had all of the same privileges and commandments to keep. You weren't kept in a court of the Gentiles, unless, again, there's kind of an understanding of this, but that original tabernacle didn't have a court of the Gentiles where they could only go so far, and then the actual Hebrews could go further. We do see that brought in later with the tabernacle.
Yeah.
Whichever one, and
I'm not sure just exactly when it came in. Possibly it could have been in Solomon's time, when the temple was built. But I know that there's been a separation by the Father all the way through, from the circumcised and uncircumcised, that there was a separation there. And so I don't know whether we're talking about the court of the Gentiles here or whether we're talking about physical separation or whatever, but evidently the Moabites were not allowed to be in the privileges of the congregation altogether. They were not allowed to be included. Go ahead.
One thing about the Moabites, they were of incest.
Yeah,
True.
that's true.
But when you get down to Ruth, she is allowed to come in. So y'all don't know how many generations, but it says down to the 10th generation.
Right.
So
Which maybe that's 10th generation from
this point, or whenever it happened,
Lot.
maybe.
From Lot, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's some things there I think that are a little bit unclear to us that we just have to do with the best we can until the Father gives us some better revelation. Anybody? All right, let's go to 24.
When a man takes a wife and shall marry her, and it shall be, if she finds no favor in his eyes, because he has found no matter of shamefulness in her, and he shall write her a certificate of divorce and put it in her hand and send her out of his house. And she has left his house and went and become another man's wife, and the latter husband shall hate her and write her a certificate of divorce and put it in her hand and send her out of the house. But when the latter husband dies who took her to be his wife, then the former husband who sent her away is not allowed to take her back to be his wife after she has been defiled, for that would be an abomination before Yahweh. And do not bring sin on the land of Yahweh, your Almighty Sovereign, as giving you as an inheritance. When a man takes a new wife, let him not go out into the army, nor let any matter be imposed upon him. He shall be exempt 1 year for the sake of his home, to rejoice with his wife, he is taken. No one takes in pledge the lower or the upper millstone, and he would be taking the life of a pledge. When a man is found kidnapping any of his brothers or the children of Israel and treats him harshly or sells him, then that kidnapper shall die. Thus you shall purge the evil from your midst. To take heed in an outbreak of leprosy, to diligently guard to do, according to all that the Kohanim, the Levites, teach you, as I have commanded them, so you shall guard to do. Remember what Yahweh your Almighty Sovereign did to Miriam on the way when you came out of Mizraim, and when you led your brother alone. Do not go into his house to get his pledge. Stand outside and let the man go to whom you lend bring the pledge out to you. And if a man is poor, do not sleep with his pledge. By all means, return the pledge to him at sundown, and he shall sleep in his own garment, and shall bless you. And it shall be righteousness to you before Yahweh your Almighty Sovereign. Do not oppress a hired servant who is poor and needy, or your brothers, or the stranger who is in your land within your gates. Give him the wages on the same day, and do not let the sun go down on it. For he is your brother, for he is poor and lifts up and brings his being to it, so he does not cry out against you to Yahweh, and it shall be a sin to you. Fathers are not put to death for their children, and children not put to death for their fathers. Each is to die for his own sin. Do not twist the right ruling of the stranger and the fatherless, or take the garment of the widow. But you shall remember that you were slave in Mizraim, and that Yahweh your Almighty Sovereign redeemed you from there. Therefore I am commanding you to do this word. When you reap your harvest in your field, and have forgotten the sheep in the field, don't go back and get it. Let it be for the stranger, or for the fatherless, or for the widow, so that Yahweh your Almighty Sovereign might bless you in all the work of your hands. When you beat your olive tree, do not examine the branch behind you. Let it be for the stranger, for the fatherless, or for the widows. When you gather the grapes of your vineyard, do not glean behind you. Let it be for the stranger, or the fatherless, and for the widow. And you shall remember that you were slaves in the land of Mizraim. Therefore I am commanding you to do this word.
Anyway, I think it's just so obvious here what the Father expects of us. He expects us to be compassionate, honorable, and just toward one another as well as toward Him. And to be aware of the poor, the one who is needy in your community, the one who is needy. If you have him work for you, pay him his wages on the same day, because he may not have no money in his pocket, and you sleep on his wages. It don't do you no good, but it would do him a lot of good to have it in his pocket. So the Father's saying to you, you must be honorable toward one another. You must be considerate toward one another, and do what is right toward one another. I think it's so obvious that, everybody talks about the 10 Commandments, 10 Commandments, 10 Commandments. The church is talking about the 10 Commandments. What they seem to fail to understand, that the commandments is just split. Part of them are how you deal with the Father, and the other part is how you deal with one another.
Yeah.
You remember, whenever the light struck Paul down on the road to Damascus, he heard this voice it said, Saul, Saul, why do you persecute my people? There you go. That's what he said. Why do you persecute me? Paul never beat Yeshua. He never done anything to Yeshua. However, he did persecute drastically the followers of Yeshua, the believers. And Yeshua said, you're persecuting me. Not them, me. And so we need to understand that whenever we deal with one another, we are to understand that we're dealing with the Father. That the Father set that standard when he brought Paul down to his face on the ground and with the light. Why persecutest thou me? Whatever we do to the believers is like doing it to the Father, to Yeshua. You say you love Yeshua and mistreat his believers, you're a liar. Anybody?
So I'd like to point out in 8, it says, take heed in an outbreak of leprosy to diligently guard and do according to all that the priests, the Levites, teach you, as I have commanded them, so you shall guard to do. It's not, make sure you do what is prescribed in the leprosy. More proof that the leprosy was a spiritual, outward physical sign of spiritual matters. Because it's not just do what's prescribed for leprosy that they're guarding. It's do everything that they teach you.
Yes.
All of the Torah.
Yes, definitely. Anybody? I wasn't playing on my phone, brother, when you was talking. I was turning up my hearing aid so I could hear better. Anybody? All right, let's go to 25.
When there is a dispute between men, and they shall come into judgment, and they shall be judged, and the righteous declared righteous, and the wicked declared wicked. And it shall be, if a wicked is to be beaten, that the judge shall cause him to lie down and be beaten in his presence with a number of blows according to his wickedness. 40 blows he gives him, but no more. He beat him with many more blows than these, and your brother be degraded before your eyes. Do not muzzle an ox while it is threshing. When brothers dwell together, and one of them has died and has no sons, the widow of the dead man shall not become a stranger outside. Her husband's brother goes into her and shall take her as his wife and perform the duty of the husband's brother to her. And it shall be that the firstborn son which she bare rises up for the name of his dead brother, so that the name is not blotted out of Israel. But if the man does not desire to take his brother's wife, then let his brother's wife go up to the gate to the elders and say, my husband's brother refuses to rise up a name to his brother in Israel. Raise up. About rise up. Jesus said that. Raise up, rise up. Oh, let's see, where's that? My husband's brother refused to raise up a name to his brother in Israel, he does not agree to perform the duty of my husband's brother, the elders of the city shall then call him and speak to him, and he shall stand and say, I have no desire to take her. Then his brother's wife shall come to him in the presence of the elders, and remove his sandal from his foot, and shall split in his face, and spit in his face, and answer and say, Thus it is done to the man who does not build up his brother's house, and in Israel his name shall be called the house of him who had his sandal removed. When men fight together, a man with another, and the wife of the one shall draw near to rescue her husband from the hand of the one attacking him, and shall put out her hand and seize him by the genitals, then you shall cut off her hand. Your eye does not pardon. You shall not have in your bag different weights, a heavy and a light. You shall not have in your house differing measures, a large and a small. You shall have a perfect and right weight and a perfect and right measure, so that they prolong your days on the soil, which Yahweh your Almighty Sovereign is giving you. For all who do these, and all who do unrighteously, are an abomination to Yahweh your Almighty Sovereign. Remember what Amalek did to you on the way as you were coming out of Mizraim, how he met you on the way and attacked your back, all the feeble ones in your rear, and all when you were tired and weary, and he did not revere Almighty Sovereign. Therefore it shall be when Yahweh your Almighty Sovereign has given you rest from your enemies all around in the land which Yahweh your Almighty Sovereign has given you to possess as inheritance, that you blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under the heavens. Do not forget.
Anybody? Go ahead.
On verse 11 and 12, so if a woman is trying to defend her husband in that way, she will have punishment upon her, but is she allowed to defend him another way? Just not that way?
She's allowed to defend him any other way. The problem is it seems to me like the father puts the importance on the privates, even in oath. You know, there was an oath that they laid their hands on the inner part of their thighs to make an oath, you know, in Jacob, whenever he was talking about that. The father put a special interest on that. I'm not sure exactly why all, except that the testicles were the ability to recreate, to produce. And whenever you took a hold, you took a chance of injuring them, then you took a chance of stopping that man from promoting his name. All right? And I think that's the only importance that's there, you know, is that if you injure him in that area, you could keep him from having children. I don't know how drastically that would be, but, you know, I think that's the importance of it there, is that is the ability to propel his name and to keep his name on earth. Anybody? Just take note here how focused the Father is on being honorable to one another. He is so focused on that. You are not to have two weights in your bag. You know, how important is it to all lifetime, whether you get cheated out of a couple of dollars or a couple of $100, how important is that in the history of the world? It has no importance at all. But it's important to the father because you have different weights in your bag. You have a choice to take advantage of a brother or a sister that you're supposed to be helping and ministering to. You're abusing. And the father sets this thing down so clearly. You're not to do that. You're not to have separate weights in your bag where you can weigh out a little light on one, get more for it, or weigh out a little heavy on the other and give less for it. We have to be honorable. Not only to Almighty Yahweh, but we have to be honorable to one another. And if this world would just live by that, if it would just live by that, man, it would be such a precious place to be in. You wouldn't have to have the National Guard in D.C. And if you didn't have to have the National Guard in D.C., the politicians wouldn't have nothing to argue over. Confusion is of the wicked one. And confusion is brought about in this world by sin. For the devil is the author of confusion. Anybody? Go ahead.
You know, you talk about the Father wants equal justice for every man and everything. But here, even for the animal, do not muzzle an ox while it is threshing.
Right.
You know, I mean, if your ox is hungry, feed him. Let him eat a little bit of it, you know.
You know, that's used continually by the ministerial group, you know. Do not muzzle the ox that treads the grain. You know, well, that's fine. But it don't mean you have to have $100,000 home and a $50,000 car and $20,000 gas allowance and another $1,000, $2,000 worth of clothing allowance. You know, I mean, we can take things to the very utmost, it seems. You know, so yes, the Father does intend for us to be able to be cared for. But there's a lot of difference in being cared for and splurging and going out overboard. Your needs is one thing. And I look at a lot of the salaries and all that goes on. It seems like it's way yonder above the needs. Anybody? Go ahead.
I was talking about the ox itself. I'm talking about animals.
Yeah.
Proverbs is talks about a righteous man treating his animals.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
Because you know, just because it's an animal, you don't go out there and mistreat it.
Mistreat it. That's right.
You know, you gotta take care of your animals, because your animals take care of you. You can't take care of your animals, they're not gonna take care of you.
But I understood what you were saying there. But the same thing is that, like the Father said, whenever you dealt with a stranger, remember you was a sojourner in Egypt. Remember, when you're dealing with your animals or one another either, that you have a sovereign over you that can stop your breath or bring difficulties on you, whatever, you know. You have one who cares for you like you care for those animals. And that's a good point, because I see people mistreat animals. Or I have seen it, I don't see it now so much. But I have seen people mistreat their animals, and it's not good. It's not good at all. Anybody? All right. Let's go to Isaiah 54:1.
You're pushing the top one?
Oh, what's bottom?
I think we're gonna have to get you in the,
All right,
well,
sorry. I didn't
get
realize
right.
that. Okay, it's working. Okay, sorry. All right. Isaiah 54:1. Sing, O barren one, you who did not bear. Break forth into singing and cry aloud, you who have not been in labor. For the children of the deserted one are more than the children of the married woman, said Yahweh. Enlarge the place of your tent and let them stretch out the curtains of your dwelling places. Spare not, lengthen your cords and strengthen your stakes. For you shall break forth to the right and to the left, and your seed inherit the nations and make the deserted cities inhabited. Do not fear, for you shall not be put to shame nor hurt. You shall not be humiliated. For the shame of your youth you shall forget, and not remember the reproach of your widowhood any more. For your Maker is your husband, Yahweh of hosts is his name, and the set apart one of Israel is your Redeemer. He is called the Almighty Sovereign of all the earth. For Yahweh has called you like a woman forsaken and grieved in spirit, like a wife of youth when you were refused, declares your Almighty Sovereign. For a little while I have forsaken you, but with great compassion I shall gather you. In an overflow of wrath I conceal my face from you for a moment, but with everlasting loving commitment I shall have compassion on you, said Yahweh your Redeemer. For this is the waters of Noah to me, in that I have sworn that the waters of Noah would never again cover the earth. So have I sworn not to be wroth with you, nor to rebuke you. For though the mountains be removed and the hills be shaken, my loving commitment is not removed from you, nor is my covenant of peace shaken, said Yahweh, who has compassion on you.
Anybody?
Sorry, Rachel.
Okay, I'm glad it picked up. I was worried it wasn't gonna connect, so it's
Thank
okay.
you,
I'm
Father,
glad it
for the
connected
covenant.
fine. That's what I was worried about.
Yeah, and I like it where you talk about the covenant of peace. You enter into the covenant, that's the covenant of peace.
Woo! We want
If
that.
you're outside the covenant, there's no promises to you. But if you're inside the covenant, that's your protection. Walking in covenant, keeping commandments, walking in the Ruach HaKodesh, under the blood of Yeshua HaMashiach, in covenant. You're in covenant with him, he will protect you. You're in contract with him, he will protect you. But that's the covenant. And if you won't submit yourself to Almighty Yahweh through Yeshua HaMashiach, you are excluded from the covenant. The covenant does not apply to you. It's just like going to an insurance company and trying to get them to pay off when you have no policy with them.
Hard enough to get them paid off when you do have a policy.
That's true. Thank you, Father, that it's not like the insurance company, huh? Anybody? All right, let's go to Matthew 5:27.
Matthew 5:27. You heard that it was said to those of old, you shall not commit adultery. But I say to you that everyone looking at a woman to lust for her has already committed adultery with her in his heart. And if your right eye causes you to stumble, pluck it out and throw it away from you. For it is better for you that one of your members perish than for your entire body to be thrown into Gehenna. And if your right hand causes you to stumble, cut it off and throw it away from you. For it is far better for you that one of your members perish than for your entire body to be thrown into Gehenna.
How important is it? We see this just in these scriptures here. How important is it to get away from the things that are pulling you down and leading you to transgress the word of Yahweh? It's so important. He said if it's your hand and you can't keep it from doing what it's supposed to do, cut it off. I mean, it's serious. It's serious. When something, I mean, that's how serious it is when something, you have something in your life, a condition in your life that continually pulls you down and causes you to transgress. You need to go to whatever extreme you need to go to stop it. That's how important it is to the Father that you break that thing off. Rather than just saying, well, it's a sin, the Father knows I'm made of flesh, and, you know, He's forgiven me. It's not expected. You are been recreated, a new creation, a regeneration, a royal priesthood. Anybody? All right. Let's go to 1 Corinthians 5:1.
First Corinthians 5:1. It is commonly reported that there is whoring among you, and such whoring as is not even named among the Gentiles, so as one to have his father's wife. And you have been puffed up, and did not rather mourn, so that he who has done this deed be removed from among you. For I indeed, as absent in body but present in spirit, have already judged the one who did this, as though I were present. In the name of our Master Yeshua HaMashiach, when you are gathered together in my spirit with the power of our Master Yeshua HaMashiach, deliver such a one to Satan for destruction of the flesh, in order that the spirit be saved on the day of the Master Yeshua.
Hallelujah. Anybody? Oh, come on. All right, go ahead. And no, there's got to be some comment on it.
Mine's actually just a question. What does it mean to turn him over to Satan for the destruction of the flesh?
Bless your heart, you read my mind.
Good. I love that answer.
It is so important that we understand what this means. How many of you pray for one another? Bind Satan away from one another. Bind the spirit of affliction. Bind the tormenting spirit. When it says deliver such a one to Satan, the flesh to Satan, that he may learn not to blaspheme, it's talking about not binding Satan away from him. Not intervening and trying to get all the difficulties and all the problems away from him. But let him learn what it is to be without the covenant of Almighty Yahweh. Let him learn what it's like to be without the blessings of Almighty Yahweh. When you see somebody that is just totally abusing the word of Yahweh, and you go and pray, bind Satan away from them, you're not helping them. What you need to do is pray for that person to come into understanding. But do not hinder the bad things from coming against him, because he needs to learn what it's like to be without the covenant of Almighty Yahweh. Too many people have taken for granted the benefits and the blessings of Almighty Yahweh, and they have no fear of being without him. And what it's saying here, let them learn the fear of being without Almighty Yahweh. Do not try to bind the evil things from them. Do not try to cast away from them. Deliver them. If that's where they want to walk, let them walk that way. Do not pray against the works of the Father when He has removes His protection from them. Don't try to get the Father to protect them, even though they're not seeking the Father. And the purpose of it is not because we hate them, but because we want them to learn to come into covenant and the protection of Almighty Yahweh. And you can't have that protection if you go about abusing everything He has for you, disregarding His word, disregarding His commandments. You can't walk in the blessing of Almighty Yahweh and live like hell.
If they're thinking out loud without a microphone, it's just, they need the consequences of their actions.
Right.
They need to repent.
Right. Exactly. Anybody?
So this kind of goes to one of the things that I've tried to incorporate in my prayers. You know, we're told that Father will bless those that bless us and curse those that curse us. And there for a while, I kind of thought that was at enmity with, you know, loving our enemies.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, so I've started incorporating that into my prayers of bless those that bless us. And if you're going to if you're going to curse those that curse us, do it so that it brings them into covenant with you. That it brings them into the realization of the need to follow the Torah and to get the salvation through that.
Exactly. What I feel like the church misses so often is they emphasize the importance that we have with Almighty Yahweh. He protects us, He cares for us, He heals us, He delivers us. But what they do not emphasize is Almighty Yahweh's priority is the kingdom of Almighty Yahweh and His Israel. It was so important to Him that He sacrificed His only Son that we could come in. Now, what makes us think that He won't use us to promote His kingdom? Yes, He has a desire to protect, to heal, to deliver us. But His ultimate desire is the Israel of Almighty Yahweh, the kingdom of Almighty Yahweh. And whenever your benefit comes into controversy against the Israel of Almighty Yahweh, guess who's going to win out? You bet. The Israel of Almighty Yahweh is going to win out. Every time. Anybody? All right, let's go to the Father. Father Yahweh, I come to you, I bless you, I praise you, I honor you, I glorify you. You are sovereign over all heaven and earth. All things are by you, and for your pleasure were they created. That means we here in this place were created to please you in all that we say and do. Yet, Father, I fear that there far too many times we have offended you and not pleased you in all that we've said and done. Father, I ask that you would remove any offense that we have caused you from us and forgive us. That you would remove any transgression that we have committed from us and forgive us. That we might come before you with clean hands and a pure heart. Father Yahweh, as I come to you today and as we fellowship with one another, I thank you for the food that you have placed upon our table, that we can abundantly enjoy and be fulfilled. Father, I thank you for your mercy and your compassion. I thank you that you do not leave us to our own devices, and neither do you leave us in our destructions, but you deliver us from them all. So, Father, I cry out to you this day. I ask that you bless us this day and keep us, that you make your face to shine upon us and be gracious to us, that you would lift up your countenance upon us and give us your shalom. And so shall we adorn the name of Almighty Yahweh. And I say, Baruch atah of Yahweh, Melech ha'alam. Baruch atah of Yahweh, Melech ha'alam. Blessed be Father Yahweh, King of all the universe. Blessed be your Kadosh name. Thank you, Father. Thank you, Father. Hallelujah. Thank you, Father.
My kids had those things. I think that's theirs. We can take the Bible and make it over. Do your pencils fit in it?